So, hello everybody. I'm Andrei Popescu-Belis. I'm a professor of data science and NLP in Yverdon. That's the engineering school of the canton of Vaud. And in my talk, I want to give you a rather concrete example of how the Swiss AI Center can help an SME use AI to develop and extend its activities. So my goal is to make this talk interesting if you are part of an SME that thinks of maybe developing its own activities using AI, or if you are a machine learning engineer who can help them, or maybe if you're interested in the field of translation, which is one of the inventors, I would say, and heavy users of AI. So this is joint work with Alexis Aleman, an engineer, my colleague Bertil Chapuis, and with a company called Basha, with Gopal and Keshav Krishnamani. Their goal is to be able to offer automated spoken language translation in a variety of languages. So you may wonder, well, they're not the only ones. Obviously, there is a lot of interest even from the general media in this question. So people actually comment on the large amount of apps that are available to perform speech translation. Here are some snapshots. So you may wonder whether this problem is not already solved and what is the difficulty of the SME in maybe buying of one of these apps and simply offering maybe rebranded with its name. The difficulty is that some of the low resource languages are not simply available on apps. The quality is very, let's say, unclear or unstable. So here I have some snapshots from reviews, which try to compare the apps or try to provide various quality indicators. And if you think of most snapshots or demos, they're often on very simple sentences, like, how can I go to the station? Okay, fine, I can have an app to translate this. But the goal of Basha is to do much more than that. In fact, it is a company whose main business for the moment is not necessarily technological. So you may think, where is the AI in this company? They're actually offering a way to connect community interpreters to people who need them. So think of foreign people living in Switzerland, going to the doctor, or maybe going to the school of their children, and not being able to speak one of the national languages. So they need an interpreter, and this company can provide the services of a community interpreter. So that's a bit different from the conference interpreting, for instance. Their experience in IT is a platform that helps with reserving slots for these interpreters, for billing the work of the interpreters. So there is experience in IT. And they have knowledge of the existence of automated translation. So they came to the Swiss AI Center to ask whether there is a way to build a pilot application for them using AI modules, which could actually be used in some cases to offer an automated translation service. So with respect to what Yves was saying, where is Yves? The goal here is not necessarily to replace some slots of the agenda of the interpreter with an automatic service, but is to be able to offer the service when an interpreter is simply not available for one of these languages. Or maybe when cost of human interpreting is an issue. So our goal in this was actually to use AI components to build a pilot. And what I want to explain quite briefly is the several stages that we took in our work. This is still ongoing work, it's work in progress. So if one of the available apps is not actually usable in our context, what can we do? My own experience is in NLP, actually in machine translation, and also in speech recognition. So our idea is to build a solution which involves a cascade of modules for speech-to-speech translation. But the core question of the SME is not necessarily what is the technical way of building this, but it is what is the best solution for them. And our first answer is we have plenty of solutions. So the Swiss AI Center can host an avalanche of modules that will help you build a speech translation system. But what they want is the best one. And the best one according to some conditions. So I will explain this. I will briefly show how the Swiss AI Center infrastructure is used and give you, well, 1 or 2 sample results just to show what is the type of outcome of this project. So conceptually, the architecture of the technical solution is not very difficult to understand. We selected a sort of conservative solution to be able to offer speech translation for the languages that we target. So first, we convert the speech to a written version. That's called speech-to-text or ASR. We perform machine translation on this written version to the foreign language, and then we generate the output in a new language. And just to fix a bit the ideas, for the moment we started our work with 4 languages, so English, French, Turkish, and Russian. Of those, only Turkish would qualify maybe as a low-resource language for our use case. And we are currently working on adding a very low-resource language, which is Pashto, spoken in Afghanistan. So technically, we're just combining AI-based modules to achieve this pipeline and perform speech-to-speech translation. To understand a bit how the user, or actually how the viewer of the demonstration sees all this, there is a snapshot of the interface here. So well, they record or they speak in their own language. They can select the language pair. That's actually the button which is here. And then the interface offers a translation. Again, illustrated here are the 3 stages of the processing. And, well, the results are actually transcribed because we believe that people would like to check actually what happens. So building this is relatively easy with the tools of the Swiss AI Center, but you probably haven't noticed that the interface had a button at the lower right part, where we can actually select modules among the variety of solutions that are available. So for speech-to-text, we can use, let's say, modules that we can download from repositories such as Hugging Face. We can use also something like Whisper, for instance. But it's perfectly fine to use a module which is offered, basically, with payment by here Google, like an API. Some people, if you know the field, may ask, why don't you use direct translation, which goes directly from speech to a foreign language? Well, that's sort of fine. We're testing it, but it doesn't really go to French. They often go to English. We need French in the output. Again, we can also test several solutions for MT. And for the moment, well, we basically rely on one external API, but we also have our own module. So if you think of this rather large set of modules and their combination to achieve the pipeline, if you think that in this pilot we have 4 languages, so 12 translation directions, you understand that the answer to the question, what is the best solution for us as a company, is not exactly immediate. So we know how to do all this, and the company wants the best solution, plus they have some constraints, so they would like to ensure confidentiality of what is said. They're also concerned about the cost, because external services come at a cost. So in the end, we have to run all this. The architecture, as was mentioned earlier, so the Swiss AI Center relies on the Kubernetes cloud, on which we can run our local modules. We can also make calls to APIs. We also run the front end. And we need actually to store data, because as I will explain in a moment, our goal is to also be able to gather data for future language pairs. And so this means that we also have a distributed storage solution, MinIO Cloud, which allows us to host solution, to actually store sentences, but also to produce more annotated data. And this annotation would be done with Label Studio. Sorry, yes. So in the core engine, this is actually the more wrapped version of the Swiss AI Center offer. This appears actually as 3 services and 1 pipeline for speech translation. So this is good for a pilot. It wouldn't be the solution that would be put, into practice by the company, because they would probably have their own cloud provider. They would like to actually deal with the cloud costs for themselves. So this is very good to show them basically the pre-production stage. And we also need to show them and convince them to select what is best for them. So this is, I would say, more like a technical point of view, but I'm a researcher in NLP, so I'd like to make informed solutions on what is the best pipeline. So the type of results that we need to get is test all the combinations of modules and get the performance for each of them, knowing that when you combine components in a pipeline, the performance tends to go down. But we just don't know very much how much it will go down, so we need to test this. So if you just want to test the first stage, the situation is a bit clear. You measure word error rate on speech recognition. That's quite classic. So for us, we found out, for instance, that Whisper for OpenAI was better for Turkish to French than the Google paying service via API. This was done on a small test data, but it's the type of the results that the company needs to know. So which of the solutions they go for? Of course, there will be costs involved in running OpenAI's Whisper on your own cloud, but there are also advantages. For instance, you control the privacy of the data. With Google STT, you have to pay more if you want a privacy guarantee, and they need this privacy guarantee. So things become a bit more complex when you test the cascade of 2 modules, because you can combine them in various ways, and the platform allows to do this quite transparently in a way. So the company doesn't know about this. So if you think it's a lot of A/B testing, but it's more like A plus B versus C plus D. So typically results come into big tables of scores. If you're familiar with MT, we have blue scores, we have Comet scores for the combination of speech recognition and machine translation. And you need to do quite a number of comparisons to find out what works best. So of course, you could go for the best score here, for instance, on line 3. Okay, Whisper run locally, but the Google MT service. For us, we're in a pilot stage, so we also find out that, yes, indeed, in all conditions, Whisper speech recognition works better than Google speech recognition. Again, on this data and on this language pair. Don't generalize too quickly. We'll need to redo the whole thing for other domains and other language pairs. But this relies on several comparisons. And again, also our machine translation tool, which was actually the very first version of our local model, was clearly inferior to Google MT. If you think of the more modern solutions of actually doing speech recognition and translation in one go, here they didn't work very well for us because they actually went to English and we needed French. So this is the type of informed reasoning which we can feed back to the company to tell them very precisely, I would say, and empirically, what is the best combination. So the first collaboration was supported by the Swiss AI Center through the checks that well, they were presented earlier. We obtained the second project supported by the University of Applied Sciences of Western Switzerland. And here the goal is to collect more data through the same tools that you saw. So we have two workflows. We are experimenting with both of them, either working on written dialogues and speaking them aloud, or recording actual dialogues from the company. But here we have very strong privacy concerns, because there are people, you know, who are at the police office, there are people in very difficult situations. So the concerns for privacy are really very strong. But for now, we managed in a reasonable amount of time to collect, say, about 2 hours of interpreted dialogues. This means basically thousands of sentences. So they will help us make a second round of informed choices among all these pipelines. And then we start again for Pashto. So we also have tools for annotations and data collection. So I hope this gives you an idea on how we can draw the SME from some experience with IT and a very clear need for AI into actually using the AI to answer these needs. So thank you for your attention.